Old Jack had shown great patience with Tang San, considering him the most sensible child in the village. He found it hard to believe that such a well-behaved child could be the son of someone like Tang Hao. The title of Great Soul Master is reserved for those at the highest level of Soul Masters. Soul Masters are the most esteemed profession on our Dolua continent. They can be powerful warriors or possess outstanding auxiliary abilities. But regardless of the type of Soul Master, their ranks are determined by the same titles. A Soul Masters possess their own soul power, which is divided into 10 major ranks. Each rank is further divided into 10 levels. When first starting out, one is called a Soul Scholar. Everyone becomes a Soul Scholar once their martial soul awakens. If their martial soul can be cultivated, when their soul power reaches level 11, they advance to the next rank, which is Soul Master. The Great Soul Master is the third rank in the entire sequence. Achieving the realm of Great Soul Master already makes one a formidable Soul Master. Here are the 10 ranks in total. A Soul Scholar, Soul Master, Great Soul Master, Soul Ancestor, Soul Sage, Soul Emperor, Soul Dolua, Soul Saint, Title Dolua, and above level 90, there are those called Title Dolua. They are practically invincible. Pride gleamed in his eyes. Our Saint Soul Village produced a Soul Saint 100 years ago. In Noting City, and even in the entire Fastno province, it was an extremely rare occurrence. Tang Hao, however, scoffed, Old Jack, that's just a legend." As if touched on a sore spot, Old Jack became furious. What do you mean legend? Legends stem from facts. Tang Hao, you've been in this village for 6 years now. You should understand the significance of the Soul Saint in our hearts. If I hear you insult the Soul Saint again, I'll exile you from the village. If it weren't for Tang San, do you think I would willingly come to your dog's nest? Tang Hao remained unfazed, continuing to work on his tools as if he hadn't heard Old Jack's words. Old Jack shot him a fierce glare before turning to Tang San. Just make sure you don't turn out like your father, all right? I'll come to get you in 3 days." With that, Old Jack stormed out of the blacksmith's shop. "Dad," Tang San called out. Tang Hao gave him a cold glance. Seeing the chill in his father's eyes, Tang San held back what he wanted to say and quietly returned to his room to continue his work on the forging. As night fell and they finished dinner, Tang Hao wiped his mouth and headed out as usual for his nightly routine of drinking cheap wheat liquor. Dad, wait a moment," Tang San stopped him before he could leave, leaving the dishes behind. What is it?" Tang Hao impatiently glanced at him. Though he had never hit Tang San, for some reason, Tang San was always a bit afraid of his father. Even as someone who had lived 2 lives, he couldn't shake this feeling towards his father. "I've finished the 10,000 strikes, Tang San said. "Yo." Tang Hao's eyes seemed to brighten a bit. "Let me see." "Okay." Tang San hurried back to his room and soon returned holding a black iron block. The block was jet black all over, and though its shape was irregular, every surface gleamed with a bright metallic sheen, with hints of a deep black luster. The entire block was about 1/4 the size of the original iron lump, but with the support of his Xian Tiangong, Tang San found it easy to carry. Tang Hao took the black iron block in his hand and examined it closely. Do you understand what I meant now?" Tang San nodded. 100 refinements make steel. Even the poorest quality metal, after constant refining, can become excellent. "Dad, were you trying to tell me this?" Tang Hao noticed that his son had surprised him a lot these days and handed the iron block back to him. Keep going. Show me when you've forged it to the size of a fist." With that, he turned and walked out of the house. According to what he had originally said, Tang San could learn forging after 10,000 strikes, but now it seemed like he was going back on his word. But Tang San didn't mind. He was just thinking about what Tang Hao had said. A fist size. Could he really forge such a large iron block to the size of a fist? Even though it was only 1/4 of the original size, Tang San knew very well that as he continued to forge it, the density of the iron block would increase, making it more difficult to shrink its volume. To forge it to the size of a fist, even after another 10,000 strikes, was not something that could be achieved easily. 100 refinements make steel, then what about 10,000? A glint of light flashed in Tang San's eyes, and with a slight step, he agilely slipped into his room. Soon, the clinking and clanking of the forging hammer resumed in the blacksmith's shop. 3 days passed quickly. Every morning, Tang San would go to the mountaintop to do his routine exercises. When he returned home, aside from cooking, he would spend the rest of his time forging. He had begun to exert himself against the raw iron. Every day, the speed of his hammering increased. Xian Tiangong helped him quickly recover his strength, enabling him to maintain this continuous forging process. "San, Grandpa's here to pick you up." Old Jack arrived at the blacksmith's shop right on time. Perhaps due to his annoyance with Tang Hao, this time he didn't even enter, just calling out to Tang San from outside. Tang San glanced at his father, who had just finished breakfast. Tang Hao coldly said, "Go ahead. Don't delay making lunch." Tang San nodded and followed Old Jack out of the house. Guided by Old Jack, Tang San followed him to the center of the village where the Soul Hall was located. Of course, this so-called Soul Hall was nothing more than a large wooden house. Because everyone had a martial soul, there were children awakening their martial souls every year. So, in any part of the Dolua continent, you could find the presence of a Soul Hall. However, these were just local branches, each with its own hierarchy. This year, there were a total of 8 children undergoing martial soul awakening in Saint Soul Village, and Tang San was the last to arrive under Old Jack's guidance. The children in the village looked down on Tang San. The disdain for the poor and love for the rich wasn't just something found among the nobles, it was even more pronounced among the common folk. Tang San, having lived 2 lives and being over 30 years old in actual age, naturally didn't want to interact with these children. For him, any spare time was better spent on cultivation. Therefore, he didn't have childhood playmates. Besides village chief Jack and the 8 children gathered, there was also a young man in the Soul Hall. He looked to be in his 20s, with handsome features. He wore a white suit of armor with a black cloak on his back, and in the center of his chest, there was a fist-sized soul emblem. This was the standard attire for Soul Hall personnel. On his left chest was a badge carved with a long sword, with 3 crossed swords on it. Those familiar with Soul Masters, like Jack, knew that the number 3 represented the 3rd rank of Soul Master, Great Soul Master, and the swords indicated that this steward from the Soul Hall was a Battle Soul Master. Hello, respected Battle Soul Master, I'll need your assistance," Old Jack respectfully greeted the young man. The young man's eyes showed a hint of pride as he slightly bowed, returning the courtesy, "I don't have much time. Let's begin now." "All right. Children, this is the Battle Soul Master from Noding City. He will guide you through your martial soul awakening. Cooperate well with the Master for your awakening. Grandpa is looking forward to seeing one of you become a Soul Master," Old Jack said. The young man seemed a bit impatient. "All right, last year you said the same thing. Is becoming a Soul Master really that easy? I've been to 6 villages, and not a single person had soul power, nor did they have a suitable martial soul." Old Jack's eyes dimmed with sadness. He sighed, Indeed. Only the heirs of major sects find it easiest to become Soul Masters. For us ordinary people, it's just too difficult." Shaking his head, he walked out of the Soul Hall. The young man's gaze fell on the 8 children in front of him. As a steward of the Soul Hall, it was his duty to assist ordinary people in their martial soul awakenings, so he was used to being gentle with them. Children, line up," he said gently to the kids. The 8 children stood in front of the young man, with Tang San on the far left. He was slightly smaller in stature, compared to the other children of his age. The young man smiled. My name is Su Yuntu, a great soul master of level 26, and I'll be your guide. Now, I'll proceed to awaken each of your martial souls. Remember, no matter what happens, don't be afraid. As he spoke, Su Yuntu opened his package on the nearby table and took out 2 items: 6 jet black round stones and a shiny blue crystal ball. Su Yuntu arranged the 6 black stones on the ground in a hexagonal pattern, then gestured for the first child on the right to stand in the center. Don't be afraid. Close your eyes and feel carefully. Su Yuntu's eyes suddenly lit up. Amidst the children's startled gazes, he gave a low shout, Lone Wolf, possession. A faint green light first emitted from the center of his brow, then followed the position of his brow upwards, entering his hair bun. Su Yunta's hair, originally black, turned gray the moment the green light entered, and it quickly grew longer. Matching fur appeared on his exposed hands, and his body seemed to expand significantly. His entire body was full of muscle. The Soul Hall's uniform was quite elastic, so it didn't burst due to his changed body size. Su Yunta's eyes had turned into a deep green color, and sharp claws extended from his 10 fingers, shimmering with a faint cold light. 2 halos lit up from under his feet, swirling from the ground to the top of his head. One was white, the other yellow, which looked particularly eerie. Among the children, only Tang San wasn't too scared. But even he activated his whole body as Su Yunta's body changed. Compared to surprise, Tang San was more curious. Gray fur, green eyes, these were indeed wolf traits. Did that mean that after martial soul possession, people turned into wolves? No, that wasn't right. It should be that they gained the abilities of wolves. Then, being a soul master was probably about better utilizing the abilities of martial souls. Su Yuntu clapped his hands quickly, and 6 faint green lights entered the 6 black stones on the ground. Immediately, a layer of golden light radiated from the stones, forming a golden light shield, enveloping the child who had just been inside. Don't knowing why, the child who had been crying and making a fuss just a moment ago became calm as soon as he was enveloped in that faint golden light. He stood there, somewhat dazed. Golden light spots floated out of the black stones on the ground and entered the bodies of the children one by one. The boy's body began to tremble slightly, wanting to scream but unable to. Extend your right hand. Su Yuntu stared at the boy with his green eyes, commanding sternly. The boy subconsciously extended his right hand, and suddenly, all the light spots surged out, and in an instant, a sickle appeared in his palm. The sickle didn't look illusory, but rather real. Su Yuntu frowned. It's an equipment martial soul. Can the sickle be used as a weapon? It should be acceptable. The golden light gradually converged, and the boy looked at the small sickle in his hand, feeling a bit at a loss. Su Yuntu said, Your martial soul is a sickle, an equipment martial soul. Let me test if you have soul power. Even an equipment martial soul can undergo soul master cultivation if you have soul power. After all, the sickle also has some attack power. Master, what should I do? The boy asked timidly. Su Yuntu calmly said, retrieve your martial soul with your mind. In the future, when you want to use it again, you will call it out with your mind. After trying for a long time, the boy finally retrieved the sickle in his hand. Su Yuntu handed the blue crystal ball to him, indicating him to place his right hand on it. The boy's tender little hand contrasted distinctly with Su Yuntu's wolf claws as they placed their hands on the crystal ball. After a while, Su Yuntu looked somewhat disappointed. No soul power. You cannot become a soul master. Step aside. The same scene repeated, and 5 more children's martial souls awakened. Their martial souls were awesome farming tools like hoes and sickles, and not even a beast martial soul appeared. As for soul power, Su Yuntu judged them all as none. Finally, it was Tang San's turn, the last one in front. Without Su Yuntu having to say anything, Tang San had already stepped forward and stood in the center of the 6 black stones. As Su Yuntu injected his 6 streams of soul power, the faint golden light shimmered once again. Warmth. That was the first feeling Tang San experienced. It was as if he was wrapped in a warm world, inexplicably comfortable. No wonder those children became calm when enveloped in this golden light. The warm breath permeated his body, and Tang San distinctly felt his mysterious heaven's skill inner force fluctuate slightly. Then, under the traction of the warm energy, something seemed to break inside him, and all the warm breaths rushed towards his palms in an instant. Su Yunta's eyes suddenly lit up. Within the golden light shield, this time, even more golden light spots appeared than all the children combined previously. He vaguely felt that a quite powerful martial soul was about to appear. Excitement overflowed. For these soul hall stewards responsible for ordinary people's martial soul awakenings, if they could awaken an exceptionally talented child and then pull them into the soul hall, it would bring them considerable benefits in terms of reputation, greatly aiding their promotion. However, Su Yuntu was soon disappointed. Instinctively raising his right hand, Tang San saw blue. This was the second time today that this kind of blue appeared in the soul hall of this village. Blue silvergrass, the exact same blue silvergrass as the girl before. The standard existence of a waste martial soul. Su Yuntu helplessly said, another waste martial soul. It seems that Saint Soul Village has wasted its time again. All right, children, you can leave. The large number of golden light spots that had appeared previously had given him great hope, but in the end, it turned out to be blue silvergrass, and the feeling of disappointment made Su Yuntu somewhat unhappy. Uncle, you haven't tested my soul power yet, Tang San reminded Su Yuntu as he was about to put away the blue crystal ball. Su Yuntu didn't even look back. No need to try. I've never seen someone with soul power possessing a waste martial soul like blue silvergrass. Let me try, Uncle, Tang San insisted. The warmth brought by the golden light gave him a strange feeling as it circulated within him. The opening of that gate made him feel that his mysterious heaven skill seemed to have undergone subtle changes. At the same time, he also wanted to know how his inner force differed from the martial souls of this world. Su Yuntu was stunned for a moment before turning around, meeting Tang San's calm and somewhat determined gaze. He thought to himself that this child seemed to be somewhat different from the others. All right. Trying out soul power won't waste too much time. As he spoke, he handed the blue crystal ball to Tang San. Following the method taught by Su Yuntao before, Tang San controlled his blue silver grass to retract into his body. He found it not difficult at all, as long as he controlled it like he did with his Xian Tiangong, retracting his power. At the same time, he also found that when the blue silver grass appeared, it seemed to surge from his Xian Tiangong, as if the blue grass was condensed from his Xian Tiangong. As soon as Tang San's palm touched the blue crystal ball, his body trembled violently. To his surprise, the beautiful blue crystal ball had a huge suction force, and his internal power seemed to find an outlet and surged out like a flood. He wanted to break free, but he couldn't escape from the strong suction force. Su Yuntao was equally surprised. Just when he thought this last soul power test in Shenghun village was just a formality, suddenly, the blue crystal ball in his hand lit up. Dazzling blue light spread from a single point, and in the blink of an eye, the crystal ball shone like a sparkling gem. A faint blue light halo emerged, indescribably moving. According to tradition, as long as the crystal ball showed any response, even a trace of light, it proved the tested person had soul power. And the dazzling light shining from the blue crystal ball in front of them had only one explanation. A god, it's actually innate full soul power. Green light once again emitted from Su Yuntao's body. The crystal ball bounced Tang San's palm away. At this moment, he looked at the boy in front of him with completely different eyes, as if he was looking at a monster. Tang San naturally noticed that his situation was different from the other children who were tested. He asked with confusion, Uncle, what is innate full soul power? Su Yuntao looked at him dazedly and subconsciously explained, when everyone awakens their martial soul, besides the form of the martial soul determining its strength, the amount of soul power is also crucial. Most people don't have soul power when they awaken their martial souls, like the children before. They are destined to never become soul masters. But as long as there is soul power, even if it's just a trace, it can be cultivated through meditation. And during the awakening of the martial soul, the amount of soul power is crucial, determining the starting point of soul master cultivation. The higher the innate soul power, the faster the postnatal cultivation, and because of the high starting point, they naturally lead others. Innate full soul power is the highest level of soul power one can achieve at the time of martial soul awakening. The highest level of soul power? Tang San looked at Su Yuntao, his mind racing. He didn't know what his soul power was like, but he could be sure that the blue crystal ball, responsible for testing, absorbed his Xian Tiangong inner power. Could it be that his inner power had turned into soul power in this world? Perhaps because Tang San's innate full soul power had brought Su Yuntao quite a shock, he explained tirelessly, "Our martial soul ranks are like this, with each 10 levels representing a title. As long as the martial soul awakens, one can automatically be called a soul master. Of course, it's only a first-level soul master. According to the strength of the martial soul, the levels are distinguished. Innate full soul power means that after awakening, the soul power can reach the highest 10-level degree. I've never encountered anyone with innate full soul power. When I awakened, I only had second-level soul power." Tang San had come back to his senses by now. Having finally found a true soul master, he naturally wouldn't give up and hurriedly asked his most pressing question, does martial soul power only reach 10 levels innately? Can't it go any higher? Su Yuntao retracted the green light all over his body and withdrew his martial soul attachment. Of course not. The advancement of a soul master's strength is not that easy. Each leap in rank not only requires the martial soul power to reach the peak of the previous rank, but also requires obtaining a soul ring. Without a soul ring, even if you work hard in cultivation, you won't be able to enter the next rank. Just like you now, because you have reached innate full soul power, if you want to continue to improve your soul power, it's not just meditation. You must first obtain a soul ring to enter the next level and continue cultivation. Tang San realized, a soul ring, is it the halo around you just now? You're at level 26, so you have 2 soul rings. Su Yuntao nodded and said, exactly. Your situation is very special. Having innate full soul power is a talent that's rare once in 100 years. It's a pity, really too much of a pity. It turns out to be a waste martial soul. Even if your martial soul is just a farm tool, it would be much stronger than the waste martial soul blue silvergrass. If that were the case, I could also. He didn't continue, but Tang San vaguely understood his meaning. It's just that at this moment, the veil in his heart seemed to be lifted. Tang San had always been a thoughtful person, the same in his previous life and this life. According to Su Yuntao's words, if soul power was truly connected to his inner power, then the inner power he cultivated in this world had become soul power. And the reason why his Xian Tiangong couldn't enter the second realm was because of the so-called soul ring. In other words, if he wanted to improve again, he had to obtain a soul ring like a soul master. But what was a soul ring? Tang San was about to continue asking, but Su Yuntao had already picked up his package and walked out. Old Jack. The door opened, and old Jack nervously greeted Su Yuntao. Master, how did it go? Is there a possibility for any of the children in our village to become soul masters this year? Su Yuntao looked at him and sighed. There is one, but it's a pity. Old Jack's eyes showed a look of disbelief and uncertainty, tentatively asking, Master, what exactly? Su Yuntao said, among the 8 children this year, only one has soul power, and it's innate full soul power. But the pity is, his martial soul is blue silvergrass. Do you understand? Blue silvergrass? Innate full soul power? My goodness. Old Jack's disappointed expression was even more severe than Su Yuntao's. He had been the village chief for so many years, naturally understanding what innate full soul power represented. But innate full soul power appearing on a blue silvergrass martial soul was really. Master, is there really no way to cultivate blue silvergrass? Old Jack frowned and asked. Su Yuntao could feel Old Jack's mood, but he was no longer as proud as before. He patted Old Jack's shoulder and said, It's not completely impossible to cultivate. It's just, do you think that blue silvergrass will evolve as the martial soul improves? A waste martial soul is still a waste martial soul. Even if he becomes a soul master, he's probably a waste soul master. Innate full soul power is really a pity. Alright, I'm leaving now, I have to go to the next village. Su Yuntao left the village, leaving Tang San to run up to Old Jack and ask the question he was most eager to know. Grandpa Jack, what is a soul ring? How can I get a soul ring? Old Jack seemed to still be pondering Su Yuntao's words and answered subconsciously, I also don't know what a soul ring is. To get a soul ring, it seems you have to hunt soul beasts. That's a very dangerous thing, only soul masters would do it.